We are getting down and dirty today on Go Work, Go Broke because we are talking about OnlyFans. Yes, you don't often see it and you probably won't see it again, but this week it's in the news big time because Annie Knight and Bonnie Blue are two OnlyFans creators who have taken the news by storm this week. They're getting exactly what they want, which is more attention, and yes, I know I'm giving it to them, but hey, this is what the people want to talk about, and what is on everyone's lips? Sex sells, don't they say? So Annie Knight and Bonnie Blue are two OnlyFans creators. Yes, that means that they make sex tapes for a living and make a lot of money out of it. They have pledged to go to the Gold Coast and basically take Schoolies by storm. Well, they did pledge that a few weeks ago until the Gold Coast pretty much said, you're not welcome here. You need to go somewhere else. So they tried to go to Fiji, and just yesterday we got word that they were being kicked out. Yes, they left before they could be kicked out. So they are back in Australia. Bonnie Blue isn't even an Australian citizen, so I don't know where she's going because she had her visa denied by Australia. This whole thing came about because these two tried to exploit Schoolies and the young boys at Schoolies by saying, look, if you want to have sex, then come and do it with us.
Hey boys, who's excited for Schoolies? Because my gosh, I am.
We will make you sign a release form. We'll make sure everything is really safe. We'll make sure there's protection. But the catch is, you have to be filmed. You have to be on our OnlyFans. These kids, most of them are 17. Some of them are fresh 18. Little bit immoral, don't you think? It makes me a little bit nervous. I mean, I'm not even a parent, so I can't imagine how parents would feel about this. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies that these two women, who are way older than 18, by the way, I think Annie's 27 and Bonnie Blue is 25, are going and targeting these kids. You know, they've put it all over social media. They've said, this is the time and place where you can meet us. We would love to have you and we'll give you a great time. You know, groups, everything. They are presenting the entire sexual gamut. And maybe I'm a prude. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm too old for this. But to me, this age gap, focusing on schoolies who have literally just finished high school, it doesn't sit well with me. You know, I put this up on my TikTok and there was an influx of commentary. Now, I would say most people agreed with me and they're happy that the Fijian government told them to get lost. They're happy that Bonnie Blue's visa wasn't allowed for Australia. But then I would say about 30% of people were of the mind frame of, look, if they're legal, if they've turned 18, then what is the problem? And I kind of thought about it and was like, you know what? In every other situation, I would agree because I am the first person to say freedom of speech, do whatever you want, as long as you're not breaking the law, it's all good. But I think in this situation, it's a little bit different. Now, Annie Knight and Bonnie Blue are trying to justify what they're doing by saying it's actually better that these kids do it with us because we're making it safe. We're making them sign consent forms. Everything has been really thought through and it's in a regimented, safe space. But look, these girls are hardly doing it for the benefit of these boys. The only reason they're doing it is because they want more subscribers, which leads to more money for them. That's their sole number one aim. Now, I'm not buying any of this BS that they're trying to do it for the boys, that they're trying to make it a safe space. No, they're not at all. They know that they have to get a release form to film anyone because filming without consent is illegal. But this narrative that they're somehow saints because they're making them wear protection and they're making it being done in a safe space. No, I'm not believing that. I'm just not believing it at all. And again, it's completely different because it's such a big age gap. Now, you go to Schoolies and no one is naive enough to think that these kids, boys and girls, all have just left school, are letting loose, all of the same age, and not doing anything together. That is normal Schoolies activity. But the difference is these kids are all in the same cohort. They're all experiencing things for the first time. They're all wanting the same things. There's no power imbalance at all. When you get a professional OnlyFans creator who has done this literally thousands of times by their own admission, who has made a business out of this, who has a literal business plan, knows what they're there for, knows the steps, knows what they're going to get out of it, that is a power imbalance, because that little boy, and yes, he may not be so little, but he's 17 or freshly turned 18, he doesn't have this business behind him. He doesn't have a machine behind him. So that immediately puts Annie Knight up here and this boy down here. And yes, they have signed a release form and a consent form to be filmed, but a boy's prefrontal cortex at the age of 18 is not at all developed enough to allow them to make the kinds of decisions that will affect the rest of their lives. Like, if this boy is being filmed, put on OnlyFans, she has thousands and thousands of followers, that's why she's made all this money supposedly, people will be seeing that. Potential bosses in the future, and you don't know where these videos go in the future. They could be sold off, they could be hacked, and then these videos end up all over the place. Yes, Annie Knight has ruined her future by being this public OnlyFans creator, and that's her choice. She's a 27-year-old woman who has made that decision. But this 18-year-old boy has not made that decision that is going to affect him for the rest of his life. He has just finished school. He has his entire life in front of him. Now, to simply sign a release form and say, yeah, that's fine, I'm good to have my sexual encounter plastered all over wherever, who knows, for the rest of time, it is just so inappropriate, and it's not taking into consideration the well-being of that person. There are adults and there are adults. And an 18-year-old adult is a very different kind of adult to a 27-year-old adult. And what I would say here is, if the situation was reversed, a 27-year-old man and an 18-year-old girl, a fresh 18-year-old girl who has just finished school, hasn't even had their final assembly in December. Now, what would people say to that? Can you imagine the uproar? And so there should be. It's predatory behavior. But for some reason, when it's a 27-year-old woman and an 18-year-old boy, it is not predatory behavior. How does that work? Tell me how that makes sense. It's actually even worse because boys mature at a far slower rate than girls. Until they're about 25, some would argue, literally into their 30s. So the chasm between an 18-year-old boy and a 27-year-old woman in terms of maturity is even more than between a 27-year-old man and an 18-year-old girl. Now, I can understand why people are saying it's not as bad because obviously there's not a physical element there. A 27-year-old woman can't overpower an 18-year-old man. Like, it's kind of different in that capacity. But the same thing remains. It is predatory behavior. And I can't stress this enough. And sometimes you just need a little bit of common sense. You know, 18-year-old kids don't do the same things as 25, 26, 27-year-old people. They just don't. We have different age groups in society because there are things that are appropriate for a 17 to 22-year-old, and then there are different things that are appropriate for a 25 to 28-year-old, you know? Completely different. Yes, they are all adults technically, but just use some common sense here. Anyway, if you have kids going to Schoolies, warn them about all of this stuff because, you know, when you've had a few drinks, you can very easily get sucked into these new experiences. And the big warning for this is there is currently someone on the Gold Coast, an OnlyFans creator, who I've heard with good authority is actually a biological man posing as a woman and offering the same service, i.e. come on my OnlyFans account and be filmed. She, he, whatever, is not telling these boys that she is a biological man. That in itself is a whole nother kettle of fish. You can kind of tell. I've seen photos. I'll put a photo here. But again, under the influence, maybe you wouldn't be able to tell. And this is the worst kind of deception. I mean, this is humiliating, disgusting deception. When you're an 18-year-old boy, you've gone and I don't know, maybe thought she was kind of attractive. You get to that point and then all of a sudden, you know, I don't know. For me, that is the height of horrible deception. And she is going around, she's advertising her services, and she's not telling anyone the truth. And this is really bad because it's a whole other level. And again, it's all part of this consent conversation. You need to know exactly what you're getting into. And with this particular creator, you only know half the story. Definitely watch out for stuff like that. You know what? Just stay away from that whole OnlyFans scene. It's very obvious to tell who is an OnlyFans creator. They all look kind of the same. A lot of plastic going on. So just steer clear. They're not good news.